Jared wants to know. Jared, I'll just let you ask it yourself. You're on with Dianna, Christy, and Nate.
Hey, well, I was just curious. The more that I understand about like being queer, the more that I seem to like learn about the fact that you can have more than one sexuality. And so I was curious to find out like what your guys' take was on like having multiple sexualities.
Sure.
Yeah, I may
absolutely.
need you to define your terms a little bit, because if we think of somebody as having the sexuality of being attracted to somebody of the same gender and the sexuality of being attracted to somebody of the opposite gender, then we might call that person bisexual. And so we might say that they have a bisexual sexuality. When you say multiple sexualities, tell me what you mean by that idea.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so not to be weird, but have you guys ever heard of like autosexual?
No, you may have to walk us through it a little bit.
Okay, cool. So autosexual is that you are attracted to basically yourself. So like if you are, so like you're like, for me, I am a cis male, and so for me, I always thought that, well, society pressures, like I felt like I was going to be straight, and so like for a long time, I felt like I was bisexual, and then as I understood, like, and accepted who I was, I realized I wasn't bisexual. I said I was gay. But then as I continue to understand sexuality, I started to understand like and realize that like I was more autosexual, that I was sexually attracted to myself rather than other men. And like meaning that like I feel like I have more of a like it's along the asexual spectrum.
Sure.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
so
I was already thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I feel like my primary sexuality would be autosexual, but if I was going to be including more than just myself, I would say that I am gay. And so I feel like that kind of broke my brain because I was like, wait, if you're attracted to yourself first, like,
Sure.
what's the deal? Like, does that mean that you can have more than one sexuality? And I started diving into that, and I started reading and seeing other people that talked about having multiple sexualities. And so I was curious because I was always in the fundamental like belief of, oh, well, if you like a guy and you are a girl, then you are straight. If you are a guy who likes a guy and a girl, you're bi. If you are, and like that whole like mindset of, well, there is a shoe, and if you have this sexuality, that is what you are, rather than saying, you have this that you're primarily attracted to, but you also have a secondary attraction or a third attraction to other genders. And so I was just curious, like, what your guys' thoughts were as far as that went.
Yeah, I mean, the way that you're describing what I might call like the gray specs, like the gray sexual spectrum, might be the best framework for how to understand this. Like, you might be on that asexual spectrum, but perhaps on like the far end of it that includes autosexuality and maybe even like a pinch of homosexuality. In any case, we're just using words to describe things. The thing is the thing. And whatever language we drag it through does not define it. It just is a way of trying to describe it. These words serve the thing. The thing does not serve the words. So yeah, in that sense, if you want to think about yourself in terms of having multiple sexualities, I'm totally on board with that. I'm reminded of the notion of the gender unicorn, which, if you haven't seen for yourself, is a great little illustration of this idea. It points out the fact that there are multiple spectrums that define a person's gender or a person's attractions or their romantic interest and all of these different things. And, ultimately, though, however you choose to identify, whatever words best fit you, whatever sounds you can make come out of your mouth that enable a different person to take the idea that you're forming in your head and then somehow form it in their head, those are the words that you should use. These words are here to serve us.
Mm.
Yeah, and
No, can I chime in really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, no, I wanted to say I 100% agree with you. I think for me, like, in accepting who I am, there was a big portion of me that like wanted to find the right and proper term to describe 100% of who I am, which is now I just feel like I just say I'm queer. Like, I just feel like it's comfortable. I am happy saying I'm queer. Like, that just, it feels more true. And so I would say that there's one of the part of me that looks at it and says, like, why does it matter? Like, it's just a word. But then there's also the side of me that was the new to understanding sexuality that needed a word to latch onto to finally accept what I was feeling and validate what I was feeling. And so, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to reassure you that there is precedence within the queer community for people identifying under multiple different labels. When you first said multiple sexualities, what popped into my head was bisexual lesbians. They are bi women who acknowledge that they have attraction to men, but they don't act on that. They make an active decision to mostly date women, to date outside of that cis male area and stuff. And so they are bisexual in terms of their like base sexuality, but they are lesbians in action. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, because I feel like at that point, for me, if I can chime in on that, that sounds like a little bit of like, and not to be like vulgar or whatever. One of the things
It's
for
Thursday.
me,
It's Thursday, Jared. Get as dirty as you want to be.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Because I was just like, is this a sexuality or is this a fetish? And so it was trying to like struggle to understand and just accept that, like, hey, you are who you are. Like, and that's why I just say I'm queer.
Yeah.
I'm queer.
Yeah.
I know I'm not straight. Like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people's exploration of their sexuality starts with like, well, I must be what everybody else is. I'm straight, right? Oh no, maybe I'm queer and questioning. And then you start to grab a label and it starts to fit. And then you grab another label and then you find yourself on message boards and forums and Facebook groups and on Twitter, and you're accruing more and more and more and more of these labels. And then you come right back around to saying, nah, I'm queer. And, you know, that doesn't describe everybody's journey, but I'll definitely say that you're in good company to both want to understand all of these labels and to, accrue them like they're infinity stones so that you can be like fully in your power to be able to describe your gender and your romance and your sexuality and all of these things. But ultimately, for the most part, yeah, I tell people I'm queer because I just don't have that many adjectives to offer people. And that's okay too, because a lot of these terms are going to shift and change and be fluid. And that's all right too.
Well, yeah. No, and I 100% agree with you on that one. And that's one of the things that like kind of kills me about like when people are like, oh, the Q is for questioning. And I'm like, if you're questioning, you're queer. Like, I hate to be that guy. If you're questioning, you're a part of our community.
Yeah, exactly.
To some extent.
If I might, since I'm surrounded by PhDs, I thought I might quote another PhD that's okay, well, you're almost there, Christy. I believe in you. But something that the founder of this podcast, Dr. Daryl Ray, has said is that you are your first and best sexual partner. So being attracted to yourself, finding yourself sexy, it's not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's almost a prerequisite to having a healthy relationship with another person. So, don't feel like there's some sort of stigma around being autosexual or finding yourself attractive. I mean, I do it every day. So,
I know.
and
The pandemic was a blessing. I was just like,
right. And the other thing I want to say, like personally, the way that I've tried to describe attraction and sexuality to people is like it's kind of like a dimmer switch, right? Like there's an infinite amount of numbers between 0 and 1. Right on that number line, you can go 0.1, 0.11, 0.112, 0.113, and there's literally an infinite amount of settings on that line as you go from left to right. So to try to find a label for each and every single one kind of is never going to happen. And if you are comfortable with the catch-all term queer, then go with it.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've said it, and it's been a while since I've gotten yelled at for saying it. But it's my sincere belief that if there are some 7.5 billion people on this planet, there are 7.5 billion genders, 7.5 billion sexualities.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
yeah. Can I say one more thing? I know
You may.
you're late, and so I'm not trying to take your time, so I apologize. But no,
You're good.
like that is one of the things that like I feel like the more I understand sexuality, the more I say like everybody is queer. Like society says that like that you're not queer, but like you had that feeling towards somebody of the same gender at some point, and you just didn't understand what it meant. And I feel like the more that I understand, the more that I see that like the extreme, I am 100% not attracted to my gender versus I am 100% attracted to, and vice versa. And I am so sorry because I did not realize. I hope that that's not like an offensive analogy for a non-binary person. I am so sorry about that.
No.
Is that okay? Oh, thank God. I'm a Papa Bear, and so I always get very defensive over like my trans friends, and I don't have too many different non-binary, and so I always like after I say something, I'm like, oh God, was I just ignorant? So okay.
My joke is always, if you're attracted to me, you're gay.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, Jared, we're going to move on, but I want to thank you very much for calling in. This was a great conversation and a great call. And I hope you found this instructive, and I hope you have a great night.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. You guys take care. Thank you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Hey, appreciate it.
Thank you.